Hi friends, I'm Leanne Jewell, the Giggling Guinea Pig here, and I am so glad that you clicked on this video today. My assumption is that if you clicked on this video, something in the title resonated for you. I am basically here to share my stories, share my journeys, and try to help people along their path as well. So I hope that by me sharing, hopefully you'll find some inspiration and some help along your path. So today I want to talk about my top 10 tips for surviving your divorce or breakup. And I'm just going to be super honest with you guys and tell you, I have a list of them right here in front of me on the camera. So if you see me look down, I'm looking at them. And I'm not embarrassed to admit it. I get on these rants and I start talking and then I forget what was next. And so now I have it right in front of me. So there you go. Anywho, my top 10 tips for surviving your divorce or breakup and coming through it with class. Number 1, stay classy. I cannot express this point enough. I know so many people who are going through a breakup or divorce, and the first thing they do is start bashing the other person, whether on social media or to their friends and family, strangers on the streets. Hey, sometimes you just gotta talk, right? So I get it, but we want to stay classy. So as tempting as that can be sometimes, just stop, take a moment, breathe. If you're tempted to do something that you may regret later, particularly with social media, which I'm also going to talk about in this video, don't do it. Step away, go meditate, go for a walk, go do anything else, call a friend, anything. Stay classy. It is so hard sometimes, and hopefully you're going through a divorce or breakup that is completely amicable and you guys are getting along great and everything is fine. Having been through 3 divorces, I've done it differently each time. So I have different experience each time I went through my divorce. But the one thing that I learned is to stay as classy as possible. So many people will appreciate you for that. And people notice. Keep that in mind. People notice when you're classy, especially if the other person isn't choosing to be classy. So keep your thoughts and feelings to yourself, other than your friends, your close knit group of people that support you and that are okay helping you through the process. Totally fine. And we all slip, we all make mistakes. I've done it too. I've talked to people about my divorces or breakups that I shouldn't have, but I learned those lessons. So number 1, stay classy. Number 2, you may need to move away from social media. This does not mean delete everyone and go into hiding. What I mean by that is you might have to unfriend the person that you are going through your divorce or breakup with, even if it's temporary and for a while, just to heal your heart. Now, every situation is different, so this may or may not apply to you. I know that during one of my breakups, when my relationship was ending, it was really painful for me. I was heartbroken and devastated. And sadly, the person that I was with was deciding to post all of his new dates and new experiences on social media, and I couldn't take it. It hurt a lot, and he wasn't shy about it. And so what became very hurtful to me was something that I had to sit back and go, okay, I know that, of course, being mature and trying to stay friends is great and super commendable if you can do it. But sometimes it's okay to honor yourself too. I had to just unfriend him on social media, and I did that so that my heart could heal. I didn't have to see what he was doing, all the things that shouldn't have affected me anymore. And of course they're going to if I'm sitting there looking at them, and some of them were extremely hurtful, so I had to back away from that. I did that for myself. It was a choice that I made for myself, and I did try for a few months to kind of hang in there with it, but it just got to that point where it was just so obvious and in my face and just hurtful every time I opened social media that was a choice that I made for myself. The amazing thing that I want to say about that is I didn't delete any memories, any photos, anything of that nature. Those were my experiences. I was able to look at those eventually with fondness and with good memories, and I took those things with me. So I did not do any of that. I just simply had to make that disconnect for a while so that I could personally heal. So do what you need to do, but definitely throwing that out there. I know some people think, oh no, we should be able to be friends, and that's great, and maybe you can. If you can, kudos to you. However, it's also okay to realize that your heart needs a chance to heal. And when you're stuck looking at somebody else moving on with their life and you're feeling devastated or heartbroken, that can be difficult to do. So choose you first is really kind of my point. The other piece of that is make it a game not to look. So I can sit here and honestly say 110%, the moment that I made the decision to unfriend my ex on social media, I never once looked. I never once looked and went back. I never tried, I never whatever. And it doesn't mean there weren't times I wasn't tempted. Of course, you're going through a breakup, it takes time to heal, but I made it a game of how strong I could be and how I just would sit and determine, okay, if you do that and you see something that's hurtful, why put yourself through that? What does that look like for you? So when I would sit down and be tempted, I would sit down and just say, okay, what does that look like when I do that? And when I decided that I didn't want to know, it helped me so much. So I hope that that's a good hint for you as well. Number 3, set your boundaries. Now keep in mind, I know every divorce or breakup can have different circumstances and different situations, especially when you have children. This can be really hard. But one thing that I learned in a couple of my divorces was I didn't set boundaries for myself. And I finally did on my last one. I learned what I could handle, what things I didn't need to necessarily handle, and how I was allowing people to kind of steamroll over me. And it was a huge lesson for me that I ended up eventually learning and eventually doing better with. But I will say there were times during my divorces where I didn't set boundaries and I didn't stand up for myself, and it made it really difficult. And looking back on it, there are a lot of things I wish I would have done differently. So that being said, sit down and determine what are your boundaries. Where do you need space? Where do you need support? Different things like that. For me, setting boundaries was I had to do the best I could at having no contact unless it was extremely important, involved our divorce, and then in one case where it involved our children. So that is a whole different scenario. But being able to set those boundaries for yourself, even if sometimes it's hard and you can't maybe necessarily be perfect 100%, at least sit down and think about it. So many people go in through a divorce or breakup not setting expectations for what they need to heal and what their boundaries are. So I encourage you to sit down, make a list of what's important to you and where you can kind of regroup and retake your energy. Take your energy back in that process. It's super important and so many people don't think about it. So set your boundaries. Number 4, honor your fucking feelings. Oh God, honor it. I grew up shoving shit down. It took me, over 30 years. Yeah, over 30 years to actually learn how to deal with my emotions, to learn to welcome them, to feel them so that I could process them and let them go. I was someone who grew up not knowing how to process feelings. And some of that came from my childhood, and nothing negative about my family. It was just how we grew up and the things that we learned. And to me, being strong was shoving your feelings down and just moving on. And I did that a lot in my life. During my last divorce, I learned to honor everything I was feeling, whether I was pissed off, angry, sad, hurt, devastated, feeling lost, feeling confused, depressed, whatever it was. When those feelings came up for me, I sat with them. I learned to sit with them. I did that a lot in meditation, which is a lot of reason why when I started to meditate and really got into that process, it really helped me along my healing journey so much more than I even could have ever imagined or realized. And I'm so grateful for that. But learning to sit with your feelings and honoring them and just allowing them to come through so that you can process them and let them go. When we shove those feelings down, it results in more trauma that we store in our bodies that we don't need, but it also doesn't help you move forward, I feel. And I moved forward so much faster in my last divorce than I had in any other divorce or breakup because I actually did honor and process my feelings. And sometimes that's hard, I'm not gonna lie. It's hard to sit and stew in that shit, right? It sucks, it hurts, it can be very painful. At the same time, there is awesomeness on the other side of that and so much more lightness to your spirit and to your being and to the process and just allowing yourself to go through it. So Let yourself feel the stuff, whatever it takes. Be in it. Don't try to push it away. Don't try to push it down. Sit with it. Let it be there for as long as you need it to be, because that's the whole point. Honor and process your feelings. Number 5, are you doing things you enjoy? Are you picking up hobbies? Are you out having fun with friends? Are you really getting a zest for life again? I don't know about you, but one of my last relationships, I really lost myself, and I gave myself over to this person, which was not like me at all. I'm a very strong, independent woman, and that did not happen in my relationship, which is a whole other video, and we'll have that conversation. But one of the things I realized was that I had sacrificed so much of myself for this person that I wasn't doing the things I enjoyed anymore. I do comedy, I love improv, I love being in front of people, I love helping people, I love spending time with my friends. I wasn't doing any of that when I was in that relationship. And so the moment that I was quote unquote free, and for me that was a feeling of being free as well. One of the first things I did was I got back into all the things that I enjoy. I got back into acting, I got back into improv and comedy. I got back with friends that I hadn't seen in forever because I had neglected some of those relationships for my husband, and that was not a good situation for me. But the minute that I started doing things that I enjoyed again, I felt like I was getting my power back. I was getting my center back. I was finding who I was again. And I realized I was walking on pins and needles all the time. I felt like I was constantly in fight or flight in that relationship. And so the moment I started doing things that I really enjoy, I got my life back. I got my spark back. And it was such a good lesson to me to never dim your light or shrink who you are or lose yourself in another person for a relationship, because that's not healthy. And if that's you, then, hopefully you're getting out of that relationship, but that is not how a relationship works. That's not a thriving relationship at all. So the first thing I encourage you to do, whether it's hiking or movies or going out with girlfriends, wine tasting, dancing, reading books, taking care of yourself, join a yoga class, join a group, a singles group or something like that where you can hike together and do all of those things. Whatever brings you joy, start doing that. It will help you, not in a distracting manner, but to really kind of find yourself again, but also to give yourself some joy. And then you can start to be grateful for those things that you had kind of given up. That is a huge one. So do things you enjoy. Number 6, you may or may not need it, but I recommend joining a support group. There are a lot of support groups out there, whatever that looks like. People going through divorces, breakups, whatever, there's so many options out there. If that's you, and maybe if you don't have a lot of friends to rely on that are willing to listen to your crap over and over again and all the crying, your friends get tired of it after a while, to be honest. I know mine did. So there you go. I definitely suggest check into a support group. They're amazing. If you get to that point where you feel like you just need that extra support, just hearing other people's stories and sharing what people have been through is extremely cathartic. It's very healing. Not only can you kind of start to realize areas where you might have gratitude through your breakup and things that are not as bad as what somebody else is going through, but you can also share your story and have that interaction with people. Very healing. So I recommend that. Number 7. Meditate. Learn to meditate. If you are scared of meditation, keep watching my channel or go to my blog, leanjewel.com. Go to the Giggling blog. There is a lot of information on meditation. I used to be someone who struggled with meditation because I am a perfectionist. I'm actually a recovering perfectionist. And I always thought meditation, I just had to be perfect or it wasn't right. That is so not true. And when I learned how to meditate properly, it changed my life in so many ways. And it really helped me through my last divorce. I was able to meditate. I was able to sit with feelings. I was able to journal and write things. I allowed the stillness and the quiet to see kind of what was coming up for me and what feelings were trying to come to the surface, what things I still needed to process. Meditation is so helpful, and you don't have to be religious to meditate. I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. And meditation is life-saving. Anyone can do meditation. Again, if you want more information on how or need any help with that, feel free to reach out to me. I am very passionate about that topic, and I would love to help you learn how to meditate in a way that works for you. But that is my big, huge tip, is learn to meditate. It will help you heal in so many ways. Number 8, journal your thoughts, feelings, and wishes. Write that shit out. Let it all come out. Journal how you're feeling. And maybe you do this as part of your meditation practice. I know I do. Sometimes speaking my thoughts and feelings is super helpful, but I've noticed writing them is great. And I know you've heard of people writing down their feelings and then burning the paper as like a symbolic gesture, which I am not opposed to. I highly recommend. I've done that too. But I do think it's extremely helpful to write out what you're feeling. Write out the feelings that are coming up. Write out the things that you think are too dark to acknowledge. Even if you're writing the same thing over and over again, write it. Get it on paper. Get it out of you and onto paper. You can also talk to people, of course, and that's really helpful. But sometimes journaling your process and journaling your journey. During my last divorce, I journaled my whole journey. I had a gratitude journal, and every day I did the exercises in that, but I also wrote how I was feeling each day of that journey and what things were coming up for me, and maybe things that were coming up that I needed to look at and heal and process and all of that. But it was so helpful just writing it out. So I highly recommend journal your healing process. Super helpful. And number 9, get rid of items that don't energetically serve you from that relationship. This is a hard one, people. I know it. I get it. You've got old love letters. You've got cards. You've got wedding rings. You've got jewelry. You've got maybe your wedding dress. All of those things. Get rid of whatever you can bring yourself to let go of. It will help you so much energetically. And I get there's a grieving period. I waited for a while before I got rid of my things. I had to be ready, and you have to be ready, but put it on your radar. What I did was I gathered everything into a box, and I let that box sit for several months. And then I slowly, as I gained strength and gained perspective, and I knew that that relationship was never coming back, I allowed myself to go into the box, and I would get rid of things in stages. The first thing that I did was I burned all of my cards, all of my letters, little things like that, and I honored them. I actually did it in a ritual and a ceremony, sort of a cord cutting ceremony for me, if you're into that woo-woo shit like I am. But regardless, it was really cathartic of me. And I know that there are moments where people will say, oh my gosh, yeah, but I will, in 30 years when I'm healed, I won't have those memories. That's up to you. That's up to you. I realized that I could carry those memories in my heart. I didn't need to physically lug them around for the rest of my life, especially if it was a relationship that was done and ended. Of course, there might be things that you want to keep, one token, one memento, or something like that. I also viewed my kind of getting rid of things process as I have all these photos, right? And most of them are on Facebook, social media, that kind of thing. I always have access to those if I need them. And that was all I needed. Otherwise, I had the memories, and letting go of some of those things really does kind of shift your mentality and help shift your energy a little bit too. And just get rid of that stuff and make room for new. Make room for your new life, because it's coming and it's going to be fantastic. So, number 10. You might be a long way from this, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. Start considering and working towards forgiveness. Hopefully, you're going through a divorce or breakup that is totally amicable, and you guys are going to stay friends, and all is hunky-dory, and everyone's happy. If that's not the case, if that's not you, I highly recommend when the time is right, and there will be a time that is right for you. It might not be for the first few weeks, first few months. It might take you more than a year or two. When you get to that point where your heart is starting to heal, if you have any angst, anger, upsets, whatever that might look like for the person that you have split from, start to consider and work on forgiveness, because you're going to free up so much more space within you if you do. And it's incredible when you open that space back up for bigger, better things. Forgiveness can be hard, and I'm very minorly touching on it right here, but I'm also super passionate about the topic of forgiveness. I've done a lot of work around it. Again, Visit my blog if you want some more information, or if you need some help with forgiveness. I'm the expert, so use me. But forgiveness, I will preach all day long. And again, forgiveness is a process. It takes time. It takes a lot to kind of get into that space. And the incredible thing about it is once you start to do it, you can start to look at the other areas in your life or past conflicts that you've kind of held on throughout your life. I started to really dig deep on things that I had held on from childhood all the way up to adulthood, on things that I needed to forgive. And get this, some of the things were things I needed to forgive myself for, which is also huge. So when you're doing this process, you want to work on forgiving yourself and forgiving the person who hurt you. It is extremely, extremely beneficial for you to do that. And even though it might sound hard, oh, it's so worth it on the other side. So forgiveness is something that I preach all day long. Again, if you need help with it, reach out to me. What I realized is that the things that this person did to hurt me weren't necessarily things that I think were intentional. I think it became more about things that this person was experiencing in this lifetime and things that they needed to work through. And really, it had nothing to do with me. It's just that we came together and we were together for a reason. I think not only for me to be able to kind of get back to who I am, but also to kind of heal things within each other. And even though the relationship was not a good relationship, it had its good and bad things. We did heal some things together, some things we couldn't, and so we parted with what we couldn't finish. So viewing someone in that regard is extremely powerful because it takes pressure off of you and it takes the power away from them. Not everyone is here to intentionally hurt you, and sometimes people are struggling with demons that are way bigger than even we know. And so looking at it in those terms and viewing them as human, having a human experience, changed things around for me in being able to forgive people in my life. And so I preach that a lot. So if you need any help with that, feel free to reach out. So that's pretty much it. Those are my top 10 tips. I have a lot more if you're interested, so feel free to reach out. I'll be doing a lot more videos on these and breaking things down as well, but that's kind of my quick tip. So essentially the overall takeaway from this video should be stay classy, feel your feelings, protect your energy and your boundaries, do what you need to do for you, do things that you enjoy and love, journal, meditate, have some fun, and then work towards forgiveness when you can. So thanks for joining me today. If you got anything out of this video, please like, share, and subscribe, and I will be back. Thank you so much.